Every man has potential. Everybody has potential. It's whether we live up to it or not, whether we go get it or not, determines the outcome. So really, is that man's potential, do you see that in your reality? What you see in him already? Because like I said, 20-year-old Reyes is way different than 40-year-old Reyes. Way different. Way different. So my wife probably had to just look to see what kind of potential I was. And then what kind of potential do you want in your reality? Do you want finances? Could you date a garbage man who might not be making a lot, but he loves you a lot? So what is your reality? What are you looking for? Because everybody has the potential to make money, but everybody's not going to because that might not be what they want.
What is he thinking? You are now listening to the podcast that has the answers you need for your love life to succeed. This is
What Is He Thinking?
Ladies, never date a man because he has great potential. Date him for his reality. His reality is who he is now. Potential may never come. So fellas, what are your thoughts on that type of advice to the women out here? Like, imagine it's your cousin, your little sister, your big sister, and they're getting this type of advice. They tell you about this advice. You respond how? JT.
Appreciate that. I think first off, this is totally dependent on age, 100%. Early 20s, you always date for reality, right? But potential too. A mouse isn't going to morph into a bear. So be honest with yourself about who you're with today, but you could recognize drive and motivation, right? Like where this person's going to go. How's that song go? You know, he got that ambition, baby. Look at his eyes. This week he mopped the floors. Next week is surprise. Like that's true, right?
That's that old Kanye.
If you're in your 30s or later, I mean, people can still grow, but like by then you better be dating for reality first. You can do more as you age or whatever, but if that man is not who you need or want him to be today, you probably hoping and praying and just took on a project.
Now, I feel like in one of the previous podcasts that we did together, JT, you were talking about project managers. Too many women want to be project managers instead of dating guys that actually have what they need. Carl, what are your thoughts about this question?
Yeah,
never date a man on his potential, date him on his reality. Potential may never come.
Yeah, I got a slightly different take on this, right? Because my initial thought when I pondered this question was, I think never is one of the worst things you can say. You know, especially when you're trying to date, you kind of limit yourself. I think this advice that was given limits the dating pool, right? You know, when you think about what potential means, I think the first thing that comes to a lot of people's minds is provider. But, you know, there's potential about being a loyal mate, good father, good friend, support system, good in-law to your spouse's family, all these things from the woman's perspective that they'd be looking for when they talk about potential. So when they talk about the reality, I think too many times it's about where they are now, what their drive is, like JT said, what their finances are right now. But there's a lot more to it. So I think by just kind of closing this off completely and saying, hey, if you're not who you are now, you're never going to be anything different. I think that could be slightly misleading and could cause you to just miss out on a good thing, right? You know, I think a lot of us, most of us on this chat, on this podcast, met our significant others while we weren't where we are today, right? So imagine if they pieced out with 20-something-year-old Carl. I mean, potential was low. I'm not going to lie. You know, it did not look good for a while, you know? So
come on, man. You've been too hard on yourself.
I know who I was, man. Trust me, man. But, you know, people can be set in their ways. And like JT said, age is a critical factor. One point I want to make about this, too, is it also kind of goes back to people wanting things too easy, right? So it may be generational. It may be where we are today. But I do think relationships are stronger when you grow together. I think it's also kind of flipped, too, when it comes to men and women. Because with us men, we're more focused on the now. Because we know the things we're interested in now are going to change. They ain't going to be the same. We hate to say it, but the truth is we're into looks right now. We expect that to change. So we're into like, hey, the reality of who you are now is what I want, right? Whereas I think with women, they kind of expect that things are going to grow into more things. For some reason, they think we look more interesting as we get older. I've heard them say that. So with them, their orientation is more the long game. For us, it's the short game. We know we got a finite window for certain things. So my thought is the advice that was given on this example probably is not the best advice. It sounds like saying never is not a good thing. Also, it kind of seems flipped from what I understand to be the differences between men and women and what we expect from a long-term relationship.
Okay, I hear you on that.
Can I hop on that one real quick? I think that was some really insightful knowledge he just dropped there. And I can't remember where you said you saw the question, but a lot of times I think women get dating advice from other women, which is interesting because you're not dating other women unless you are, but that's not the podcast for you, right? But
no, that's not this podcast.
Yeah, to Carl's point, I mean, to think about how men think about going in dating situations, we are very much in the now, in the present. So yeah, that was a solid point.
Before we let Reyes hop on, what you were talking about, Carl, kind of reminded me of a saying that I heard before I proposed to my wife. And it's like, men marry a woman hoping she doesn't change, and women marry a man hoping he does. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that just kind of goes hand in hand with what you were talking about. But Reyes, what are your thoughts on this question?
Man, I think they just gave the advice wrong. You know what I mean? Like, every man has potential. Everybody has potential. It's whether we live up to it or not, whether we go get it or not, determines the outcome. So really, is that man's potential, do you see that in your reality? What you see in him already? Because like I said, 20-year-old Reyes is way different than 40-year-old Reyes. Way different. So my wife probably had to just look to see what kind of potential I was. And then what kind of potential do you want in your reality? Do you want finances? Could you date a garbage man who might not be making a lot, but he loves you a lot? So what is your reality? What are you looking for? Because everybody has the potential to make money, but everybody's not going to, because that might not be what they want. So really, ladies got to look at really what they want and what is your reality, I guess what I'm trying to say, before you look at someone's potential. Because, you know, my potential might not vibe with you, but this woman over here, my potential might vibe with her. She could see me in her reality because, hey, he's a loving person. He's good with children. That's what I want in my life. You know, finances, we can work on that. Or, hey, I might want the man whose potential is, or what he wants to do and what he dreams about is making money, being rich. And I ain't gonna mind being the wife who sits at home sometimes by myself because I know my man's got to go out there and make all this money. You know, so it's all like they got to examine what the reality is before they can really determine the potential of the man they want to be with.
I'll add one more point to that before we kill this dead horse, is by saying what she said, whoever the lady is asking for the advice, you're basically saying that you're bringing nothing to his life, right? Because if he's going to be the reality, the finished product, and you're coming in, and you have nothing to add to him to improve or
what do
change.
we need you for?
Coming in with the palms out.
What is your use? Right.
Yeah, there's a famous relationship YouTuber who's no longer with us that one of his sayings was women need to be feminine, beautiful, and inspirational. Why does he say inspirational? Like inspire a man to be more than he is. What is that? He has potential. You come, you bring the potential out of him, and you get maximum productivity, results. You both benefit from it, right? That's the whole aspect and point of being inspirational. So on top of what Carl said, like, what are you bringing to the table? I am the table, is what some women say. And those are the women that will have to buy a dog and die alone, as that same man would say, because you're not going to be in a successful relationship. But if you're a reasonable woman, A, you need to be bringing something to the table, and B, inspiration. People don't know this.
Into it too, man. Well, I got to bring the dog into it.
I mean, they need some companionship. You feel me? They need some companionship. But not to get all the way off the subject, but it just came to mind. There's a supposed wage gap between men and women, right?
But in actuality, in 2023, in metropolitan areas,
unmarried childless women in their 20s make more money than unmarried childless men. It's not until a man gets married and has kids that he really starts making more money than a woman. Why? Well, there's multiple reasons why, but part of it, you know what I'm saying, is that woman is bringing something out of him and helping him, giving him the motivation, the inspiration, whatever you want to call it, to help him be all that he can be. The pressure of a family or whatever you want to call it. To ignore potential and only just rest on reality or what's actually here now is just real short-sighted, shallow thinking, in my opinion. Anyway, I heard something about 6 months ago from a YouTuber, Chelsea Nelson. That's her government name. I won't give you her YouTube name as of yet. But she said something that was real. Yeah, she's going to have to pay me if she wants me to shout her out like that. But she will get credit for this. And she was giving advice on this subject, and I thought it was thought-provoking. So I will share it with you guys, and you can let me know, hey, this is pretty good.
Or she snowed you, Mr. Stevens.
Let's see here. She was talking about basically you should not date on potential. You should date on projection. And that might sound like semantics, but like if there's a small business that's looking for a loan or whatnot, you got to bring in some paperwork, some evidence that yes, you are doing something. And yes, you have done something. You do have a track record of doing something. You're not a Fortune 500 company yet, of course, but you project to be doing better things if you get this money. I've already done this. I'm set up for this. I'm organized like this. My trajectory is this. Here's my portfolio. All I need is you, your assets, or you as the woman or whoever, join the team, you know what I'm saying? And greater things are to come. So it's more about projection than potential. So projection is potential in action with tangible evidence of progression toward a certain direction or a certain goal. You're not all the way there, but you're like 1/3 of the way there. You know what I'm saying? So like somebody said earlier, everyone has potential. Everybody could maybe go to the NFL if they start on their 8th grade football team. But what does that mean? Now, the person that has projection is the person that is All-American in college. Is he in the NFL yet? No, but he's way closer to being there than the 8th grader that's on the A team. I mean, he's put in X amount of work, and you can kind of see the trajectory of his life. So somebody said it's kind of a sitting on the fence type answer, but I thought it was kind of clever, you know what I mean? Because you don't want to date completely on potential, because that can leave women giving bums chance after chance after chance. But like we already discussed, if the guy already has to arrive before you give him a chance, then you're just along for the ride. You're useless, you're a gold digger, whatever you want to call it. So it needs to be somewhere in between. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I think that sums it up beautifully. And again, to kind of what I was saying, like the age thing makes a huge difference.
Yes.
Where you're expecting somebody to be at a certain age in life is going to have a huge impact on it. But the projection piece over potential, ton of sense. I mean, you think about it from a straight business standpoint. Would you invest with something? You think about Shark Tank, right? Like they're going to look at what have you done up to this point that's going to lead me to believe you're going to get to this point. It's the same thing with dating. And I mean, it's the same thing we do with women.
Well said.
Yeah.
I'll pile onto that too. I agree with that. I mean, it makes sense where something's already kind of started. You can see where it's heading. It would make sense to be a part of that. But I do still want to come back to you. The projection should have some element of you in it, right? Back to the financial analogy, where you got all the assets, everything that's going to be there to help drive that projected revenue and all that earnings and success. If it's all just the one person and you just want to just insert yourself into the success part of that, I would pause there as the person who is your prospect.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We'll shoot at anything, right? You always talk to women about like you got 2s walking up to them in the club and they 9s and 10s, but women also be overshooting their shots too. Women are very conceited at the same time.
Right.
And JT knows about being conceited. You got any final thoughts for us, Reyes J?
Can't BS a BS. Yeah.
No, I think that what they said was perfectly right. It totally makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I totally agree with the lady. Projection. That was good. Actually, a good way of putting it.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, ladies, this new perspective that we just spoke on, make sure to take it to heart, give it a try, and see how beneficial it could be. Okay, let's move on to the meat of the episode.